So I was thinking about one of the messages of this movie, which is seeing is believing. And for an animated film, that makes sense. But for a live-action movie, I'm not sure that still holds true. So I do have some other reviews coming along the way. I still want to try to get out to see La La Land. I did say I was going to see Assassin's Creed. I'm not sure if I'm going to have time to do that. But I thought, it's Christmas. We have a lot of holidays. Let's get into the holiday spirit and talk about my favorite Christmas movie, which is Polar Express. I know that's probably going to be something a very controversial thing. Like, which one's the best Christmas movie? This one is just for me, my personal favorite. So let's get right into it. First off, the animation in this movie still holds up for the most part today, especially when looking at the backgrounds and the train and the snow. It really is visually, every single shot is really interesting to look at, with the train especially, with when it pulls up to the main character Billy's house, with all the smoke coming out. Great image, and I believe that's also on the cover of the movie, which makes sense, because it's probably my favorite shot in the entire movie. Also, I guess I've seen some criticisms that the character animation doesn't make sense, or that it's a little bit low, and I think for the time, 2004 is when this movie came out, it worked. For me, they're simple characters, so it works that they have simple animation, and the scenery around them is so great that it makes up for any of the character problems in terms of animation. As for the story, it's a pretty simple story, just looking at like the overall view of it. It's kid Billy is starting to question his belief in Santa Claus, and then one day this magical Polar Express appears in front of his house, and he decides, should I go? Should I stay at my house? And he ultimately chooses the train, and it's all the crazy adventures that they get into. Along the way, he meets like this know-it-all kid, this kid who's pretty shy, and one girl who seems to be she's listed as like the girl hero of the story, which does make sense. She is kind of the person that holds the entire group all together. But my favorite character in the movie is Tom Hanks's character, the Conductor.
Well, you coming?
Where?
Why, to the North Pole, of course. This is the Polar Express.
Just so many things that he says are quotable, as well as he brings a lot of charisma to the character that maybe another actor wouldn't have been able to bring. As for the story, I've seen some complaints that the story, it's like, there's not much to it, and for me, there wasn't supposed to be. It wasn't supposed to be like this big, it was just supposed to be more of like an action, adventure, Christmas movie. The simple story of the fact that Billy gets on the train is really all I needed to hear. And then I just love seeing all the adventures, and one thing that this movie does extremely well is that it never lets up. You never have that dull moment. When one adventure ends, the next one almost immediately starts right after that, and you barely get a moment to breathe, which is something that for a Christmas movie, we usually have kind of the slower moments, and this movie keeps it fast-paced the entire way through, which I loved, as well as just some of the adventures. I mean, the caribou adventure, or I believe it was caribou, could be reindeer, where they end up pulling on the guy's beard, and then my favorite is probably when they're going across the ice, and the ice is breaking. Left! Right! Left! Again, Tom Hanks, great in the movie. As for some other stuff, the music. By Alan Silvestri did the music. He also did the music to Avengers, as well as Captain America, the first Avenger, and he once again does a fantastic job. Or I guess this movie came out before those, so he did a fantastic job in this. The music is very memorable, and actually sometimes when I watch the movie Elf, there's a one scene in Elf where Buddy is leaving the North Pole, and the music in the beginning sounds very similar to the Polar Express. I almost think it took influence from it. And so you have the main soundtrack, but then you also have a lot of the songs, such as the Hot Chocolate song, the main Polar Express song, and they're all a lot of fun, and they bring a lot of adventure to it. And then the big ending, like I said, the movie never lets up. You get to a point where you're off the train and you're thinking, okay, things are going to slow down. They're off the train. They're going to go meet Santa. And it just keeps coming. The adventure keeps going all the way until the very end. One more thing I forgot to talk about. My second favorite character, also voiced by Tom Hanks, actually is like the hobo character. If you haven't seen the movie, I won't spoil too much about him, but he was something that the movie didn't need to have, but the fact that it did just created even more adventures. And it also, my second favorite scene in the movie is when they're on the rooftop of the train and they're like skiing down, because that movie's pretty suspenseful, and you're getting like really close to the bridge, and the way they set up that scene with some of the characters in the very front, like, this is the biggest mountain ever, the biggest downhill ever, and then it leads to Billy on the top of the train. It's just a great way of building suspense. This movie doesn't have a great review from what I've seen from when it initially came out, but I also think it's grew over time in popularity, which is, I'm really glad to see. But even if you don't like it, it's still my favorite. And so because of that, I'm going to give Polar Express a 10. I know that seems kind of weird, but it reaches the top of the list of what it needed to be, and for being a Christmas movie, and because of that, that's why it gets the top score. Alright, we got more reviews to come. One that I thought it would be kind of fun, since I am doing a 10 review. What if I did one that was a little bit lower on the list? So look forward to that. That's going to be coming hopefully later this week, as well as a review, hopefully I'll get out to see La La Land, and some other Oscar ones as we head to the end of 2016. Until then, happy holidays, Merry Christmas, Happy Hanukkah, Happy Kwanzaa, and see you next time.